How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees? Thou knowest we work by it and not by witchcraft, and wit depends on dilatory time. So even to destroy your enemy, you need patience. You need to be infinitely patient. And that is one quality as a villain Iago possesses in abundance. But it does not stop with that, needless to say, because the central theme of the play is once again jealousy, or this kind of morbid or sick attachment to the object of love. No one understood jealousy, or no one could express it or study it or give such a fine expression to jealousy as we see in Shakespeare, in the Russian novelist Dostoevsky, and in Proust. It's only in these three writers that we see a deep understanding of possessiveness or jealousy. They understood jealousy and they gave a study, a psychological study of jealousy, what jealousy is all about. And at some point, this is what Iago has to say to Othello. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on. That cuckold lives in bliss, who, certain of his fate, loves not his wronger. But oh, what damned minutes tells he over, who dotes yet doubts, suspects yet strongly loves. And this is what even the 20th century novelist Proust says. Love is a possession where the possessor possesses nothing. So in the end, your jealousy is meaningless, because the object that you are attached to is not a real person. It's an image in your mind. It's something in your head. So the war that Othello is fighting, or the battle that he's fighting, is within himself. It's not about the real Desdemona. It's about the Desdemona in your mind, the woman in Othello's imagination. Because what happens with the extreme attachment is that reality is replaced with illusion. So the jealous person is attached to an illusion, not to a reality. So the thing that you possess is actually something that exists only in your own mind. There's no such a thing in reality, because reality is about otherness. Reality is about faith, about trust. Reality is about love which gives space to the other person. But possession or possessiveness is not about the other person. It's just about you and yourself. So that kind of a thing is there. And then Othello protests, oh misery, the pain is too much for Othello. And the dramatization of the pain is probably some of the best lines in all of literature. Because the suffering that Othello goes through because of his suspicion, because of his jealousy, his love for Desdemona borders madness. But on the other hand, to imagine that this woman whom he loves so much is cheating on him, something that actually begins to eat him from inside like a cancer. So he's a sick man, he's a diseased man. So that kind of sickness we see in Othello. In fact, at some point he has an epileptic attack. And somehow that epilepsy is a symbol that the weight of jealousy or the weight of possession is so great on Othello that he breaks down, that he cannot bear it anymore. The point is that Iago leads him to that situation. Iago pretends to be his friend, pretends to be loyal to Othello, and actually brings him or puts him in a situation where he must kill a person or he must die. And of course, he eventually does both, But again, there are these lines, which Iago says, "Poor and content is rich and rich enough, but riches fineless is as poor as winter to him that ever fears he shall be poor. Good heaven, the souls of all my tribe defend from jealousy." To which Othello responds that the point is, Othello says, I want to know the truth. If she has betrayed me, I want to punish her. If she has not betrayed me, the truth shall prevail. But what he fails to understand, that faith or trust is unconditional. Real love does not need proof. Either you accept for a fact that the other person is loyal to you, or you don't. So the only real love is unconditional love. Conditional love cannot be love. So that is something Othello fails to understand. So although he is a just man, he is a fair man, and he still wants to look for proof for his wife's infidelity. But the fact is, he has already betrayed himself by not trusting her unconditionally or by not loving her unconditionally. Think as thou I would make a lie of jealousy to follow still the changes of the moon with fresh suspicions? No. To be once in doubt is once to be resolved. Exchange me for a goat when I shall turn the business of my soul to such exsufflicate and blown surmises matching the inference. It is not to make me jealous to say my wife is fair, feeds well, loves company, is free of speech, sings, plays and dances well. Where virtue is, these are more virtuous. Nor from mine own weak merits will I draw the smallest fear or doubt of her revolt, for she had eyes and chose me. He says, she chose me, I did not ask her to love me. She has made a choice. It's not like I forced her to marry me. It's not like I imposed myself on her. No, Iago, I'll see before I doubt. When I doubt, prove. And on the proof, there is no more but this. Away at once with love or jealousy. So he says, I want proof. And the instant I find the proof, I'll decide it one way or the other. I'll decide what I should do. For I am black and have not those soft parts of conversation that chamberers have, or for I am declined into the vale of years, yet that's not much. She is gone, I am abused, and my relief must be to loathe her. O curse of marriage, that we can call these delicate creatures ours, and not their appetites. I had rather be a toad and live upon the vapor of a dungeon than keep a corner in the thing I love for others' uses. Yet it is the plague of great ones. Prerogatived are they less than the base. It is destiny unshunnable like death. Even then this forked plague is fated to us when we do quicken. He says, although he recognizes his greatness, although I'm a great man, I cannot escape this fate. He says, I would rather be a toad than be a husband to this woman who is used by other men. So at this point in time, he's convinced that she has an affair with other men, or To be specific, she's having an affair with Cassio, the lieutenant, his favorite lieutenant. And then, again the realization that comes from Iago. Trifles light as air are to the jealous confirmation strong as proofs of holy writ. You see, the jealous mind does not need reality. It will create its own illusions, and the illusions keep multiplying. So in that sick state of mind, or in that state of mind where your attachment to the object of love is so great that you cannot see reality, you don't need any proof. You start believing whatever your mind tells you. And Shakespeare really creates this, characterizes this really well. No one can do it like Shakespeare. So he understands this sickness that Othello has gradually fallen into, and from which he cannot escape. Because at this point in time, everything that Desdemona does looks suspicious to him. So what Iago says, trifles, very unimportant things, light as air, are to the jealous confirmations strong as proofs of holy writ. So the jealous mind needs very little to actually believe in its own illusions. This may do something. The Moor already changes with my poison. Othello is already changing. I have already poisoned his mind. Dangerous conceits are in their natures poisons. But that danger is in Othello's nature, because he is a proud man, because he is a self-respecting man, because he is a honorable man, because he is a generous man. Already there is that possibility in him of also being a jealous man, which at the first are scarce found to distaste, but with a little act upon the blood, burn like the mines of sulphur. Because once the jealous mind is convinced, it starts burning like a mine of sulphur. I did say so. And then he says, not poppy, nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owedst yesterday. So, you see, sleep is an image, very important image in Shakespeare. What happens to the disturbed mind cannot sleep. In other words, because the conflict is so great, you lose your peace of mind. And once that peace of mind is lost, you cannot rest anymore. So even if you try to rest, something inside you is eating you, something is burning inside you and will not let you sleep in peace. So that's what happens to Othello, and Iago recognizes it, that nothing, no drug in the world can give Othello the joy of sleep, because sleep brings peace to body and mind. But now he cannot sleep anymore. It's impossible. And then Othello says, thou hast set me on the rack. You put me on a cross. I swear it is better to be much abused than but to know a little. He's a sad and broken man. He says, it doesn't matter if I were cheated, but if I did not know about it, I would be happier. But now that knowledge that I am betrayed is killing me, is destroying me, is bringing me so much pain. So that suffering is great. What sense had I of her stolen hours of lust? I saw it not, thought it not, it harmed not me. I slept the next night well, was free and merry. I found not Cassio's kisses on her lips. He that is robbed, not wanting what is stolen, let him not know it, and he is not robbed at all. So he knows how painful this attachment is. He says, I have something, and if I don't care for it, what if somebody robs it? It doesn't matter to me. But because my passion for Desdemona is so great, it brings me this infinite pain. It's killing me. I had been happy if the general camp, pioneers and all had tasted her sweet body. So I had nothing known. Oh, now forever, farewell the tranquil mind, farewell content, farewell the plumed troop and the big wars that make ambition virtue. Oh, farewell, farewell the neighing steed and the shrill trump, the spirit-stirring drum, the ear-piercing fife, the royal banner, and all quality, pride, pomp, and circumstance of glorious war. And O you mortal engines, whose rude throats the immortal Jove's dead clamors counterfeit, farewell. Othello's occupation is gone. Because all his successes as a general, as a friend, everything suddenly seems to have gone to pieces. Because his whole world is destroyed now. And he says, I have nothing. So ignorance is sometimes a blessing where knowledge can be dangerous. The thing is here ironic. There is an ironic thing to what Othello is saying. Because had he trusted Desdemona unconditionally, or had he put her faith completely in Desdemona, there would be no place for suspicion. So it would not, I mean, we won't call it ignorance. It's not about ignorance, because real faith is not being blind to the faults of the other person. Real faith or real love is where you understand and accept the reality of the other person. You accept that the other person has a will of her own, can make choices, and can think for herself, can feel for herself. So real love is about empathy. But once the empathy is gone, then there's a serious problem. Because Othello is so consumed with jealousy and his pride is hurt, the whole world considers him a great man. He's a brave general, a honorable person, so on and so forth. But it hurts his pride that the woman whom he loves so much is sleeping with some other man. So he wishes for ignorance. You see, even here he is not wishing for faith or trust. He is wishing for ignorance. That's what is wrong with Othello. That he does not realize that his failure is because he is unable to trust her. He is unable to show empathy. His failure is because of his pride, because of his hubris, because of his conceit, because of his nature. He fails to recognize his own weaknesses. That's where his fundamental limitation lies. Because then he makes a comparison. You see, at the same time, his racism is toward himself. By the world, I think my wife to be honest and think she's not. I think that thou art just and think thou art not. I'll have some proof. Her name that was as fresh as Diana's visage, face of the goddess Diana, is now begrimed and black as mine own face. So her name has become black like my own face. So you see, there is this self-hate in Othello, because he is not proud of himself. Somehow he is ashamed of his blackness. And Shakespeare recognizes that this self-hate is at the root of the problem. You see, there's a subtle connection made here between love, or what we call love, and self-respect. A man who trusts himself will also trust the other person. So when you don't trust another person, it's a moral failure, because it shows your inability to trust your own self. And Shakespeare somehow shows that Othello's inability to trust himself comes from his insecurity as a man and as a black man. Both these factors are playing a role here in creating that kind of self-hatred. So what appears like pride or self-love is actually self-hate in Othello. Othello's inability to love himself. So because he cannot love himself, because he cannot trust himself, he needs an external object. He needs someone to give a certificate to him to say, oh no, you're a black guy, but you're okay, you're a likable person. And that is the problem with Othello. So somehow Desdemona is not just an object of passion or an object of desire, but someone who has to prove to Othello that he is lovable as a man. He is lovable as a black man. So that is the weakness in his character. And the thing is, what can Desdemona do to prove to Othello that he is lovable? Because he is consumed with jealousy and a victim to his own suspicion. What can she do to convince him? There is nothing. He cannot stop believing his own suspicions, which Iago is happily feeding into his soul. There is an important piece of evidence here that Othello finds. It's a strawberry handkerchief that he has given Desdemona at the point when he was courting her. And this handkerchief all of a sudden goes missing, because Desdemona's maid Emilia, who is the wife of Iago, steals it, unknowingly steals it from her mistress and gives it to Iago. Iago takes the handkerchief and puts it somewhere in the vicinity of Cassio, who is courting another woman called Bianca. And Iago convinces Othello that the proof of Desdemona's unfaithfulness or infidelity is this missing handkerchief. But the sad thing is, Desdemona has no idea where the handkerchief is gone. And at the same time, her loving maid, her affectionate maid, has no clue what Iago has done with the handkerchief. But now Othello has conclusive evidence that Desdemona is cheating on him. But you see, he says a very beautiful story about the handkerchief, which I would like to quote you. That handkerchief, this is what Othello is telling to Desdemona. That handkerchief did an Egyptian to my mother give. She was a charmer and could almost read the thoughts of people. She told her, while she kept it, it would make her amiable and subdue my father entirely to her love. But if she lost it or made gift of it, my father's eye should hold her loathed, and his spirits should hunt after new fancies. So this is an handkerchief that has been given by an Egyptian to Othello's mother, so that the mother would always be attractive to Othello's father. She, dying, gave it to me and bid me, when my fate would have me wife, to give it to her. So the mother gave the son, saying, when you have a wife, give this to your wife, give this handkerchief to your wife, and take heed on it. Make it a darling like your precious eye. To lose it or give it away were such perdition as nothing else could match. So the mother gave the son, in all her affection, and said, keep this handkerchief, give it to the woman that you will marry. It is true, there is magic in the web of it. This is what Othello is saying about that handkerchief, which means so much to him. One, because it reminds him of his own mother and the love that his mother had for his father. And at the same time, it is something he gave Desdemona as a proof of his own love. It is true, there is magic in the web of it. A Sibyl that had numbered in the world, the sun to course 200 compasses, in her prophetic fury sued the work. The worms were hallowed that did breed the silk, and it was dyed in mummy, which the skillful conserved of maidens' hearts. So it is something that means a lot to him. So when it goes missing, Othello cannot help but believe that Desdemona is cheating on him. Because something so precious, how could she lose? How could it go missing? How could it disappear? It's just not possible.